kind of talk through some of the things I've done to my truck over the last year so I've had it. My goal with this thing was to kind of turn it into a, you know, a pretty capable surf trip, you know, mountain trip, camping machine. So it's still my daily driver, so nothing too crazy with regards to kind of off-road mods. But most of the stuff I've done is kind of to the bed to help haul surfboards, bring some, you know, kind of some amenities with you to the beach, and turn the bed basically into a pretty comfortable overnight camping setup for Outer Banks trips or whatever. So I wanted to kind of quickly walk you through some of the mods I've done. This is a 2017 Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road. It's the long wheelbase version, so long bed 4-door. I've had it for a couple years now, and it's been awesome. Most of the stuff I've done has been kind of to the back end or bed of the truck. So first thing is I bought this fiberglass camper shell. I think it's like a Lear. I actually got it off of an old Orkin pest control truck. So I bought it for like 500 bucks. Painted it, mounted it up. You can actually see in the back here, it still has like the original Orkin pest control asset tags or whatever. So that was kind of step one of the build. Then I went ahead and built all aluminum roof rack for it. So this roof rack was actually made almost, you know, probably the majority of it was like scrap aluminum. I actually found on the side of the road some of these longer rails. I went to like a metal recycling place nearby in town and picked up some aluminum for it. But it's basically, you know, through bolts to the top of the camper shell. I've got 2 surfboard pads here, but then I've got a forward and back extension here. So if I want to haul like, you know, 12-foot lumber or something like that, I don't have the front of the boards flapping around, smashing into the sunroof. So some of the, I don't know, more unique features I guess I've added to the roof rack. I've got this all-top fold-out awning, which is pretty sweet, especially in the summer when you need some shade on the beach. It's got wraparound LED lights all around the back, so right side of the truck, one for the back side of the truck, and then the left side of the truck. These are great for, you know, lighting up your campsite, changing out your wetsuit at night, whatever. All of these lights are wired. The wirings all run through the roof rack, so I use these waterproof gland seals, wire glands. And then all the electrical runs in a single wire through the roof of the camper shell. Another kind of obvious feature on the roof rack is I have I think it's about a 5.5 gallon water tank on the top. So this is just, you know, a PVC tube. You've probably seen this before. Most people actually put like a Schrader valve and pressurize the tube like you would a tire. I went a different route that I feel is a lot more convenient. So here I've got a fill port, which is just a 4-inch cleanout plug. Top off the water here. But I just know that, you know, if I were to pressurize this thing with air, eventually that air is going to leak out. And of course it's going to happen whenever I need to, you know, spray sand off or whatever. So, and then I have it running to a 12 volt, I think it's like a 40 PSI washdown pump. So something you'd use on like a, you know, offshore fishing boat or something. That washdown pump has an internal pressure switch. And then I've got all the hose stored up in this coil up in the ceiling here. And so all you got to do to use the shower is you flip on this switch here that arms the pump. And then I pull the hose out, and as soon as I squeeze the, you know, the lever, water starts spraying, the pump turns automatically, and as soon as I let go, the pump automatically turns off again because of that pressure switch inside. And again, this hose just kind of coils up and stores neatly in this tube up and out of the way. So on that same switch panel that I used to run the shower, I have a couple other auxiliary switches. So this one runs a light inside of the camper shell, so it's all dimmable. So I've got these 2 LED light bars on the right here, and then I can dim them with this touchpad, which is awesome because, you know, when you're out in the woods or something and it's dark out, you don't need a whole lot of light. You don't get blinded by these things, so that's a cool feature. I also have an auxiliary hookup for a fan, so I can turn I have a fan plug up front, and I can run a 12 volt fan to just keep air circulating through here when you're sleeping. I also have 2 USB chargers to charge your phone, and then a voltmeter to monitor the battery level. Also in the back of the truck, I've got this aluminum sleeping platform. So this is just a piece of plywood with carpet. It sits on an aluminum frame. This whole thing lifts out, so you don't need to unscrew anything or remove it, so it can be removed really quickly. And then I've left this little kind of ridge on this lip on the side of it here. And I've got an extension platform, so if my girlfriend wants to spend the night in the back with me, I've got another board I can drop in so that this goes kind of 2 people wide. It turns into like a double bed. So moving around to the other side of the truck, or the other side of the camper shell, you've probably noticed this big metal toolbox from the inside. If I open it up on this side here, this turns into like an awesome kind of shelved storage compartment. So one thing I really missed having a truck about a car was just having like a trunk, I guess, to keep things organized. And so this toolbox has been great. So I can store, propane tanks for my grill or camping heater. Got lanterns and flashlights, tie-down straps, air compressor for if I need air down off-road. Keep a pair of binoculars. You name it, sunscreen, bug spray, paper towels. I've got vinegar here for jellyfish stings. I've pretty much got it all in the back of this thing. We got a little hammock, camping table, all kinds of stuff. Also have some dog toys stashed away in here for Finn. You want your ball, buddy? Ready? Go get it. Another thing that's nice about this this toolbox is when it's closed, I installed locking latches all the way around, so not only on this, but on the windows all the way around the side, so I can lock everything up too, if I ever need to, park overnight in a sketchy area or something. And then aside from just general storage, this kind of toolbox area also sort of acts like the electrical hub, I guess you could say, for the camper shell setup. And so I've got a switch panel back here and a couple other cool electrical components. So first things first, this is a low voltage cutoff relay. This is a really cool part I got off of Amazon. One of my concerns was, say I'm sleeping in the back of the truck and I left a light on or a fan or something, kills the battery, and then I can't start the truck in the morning. And so I have a standalone, I think it's a 8, 10, or 12 gauge cable that runs directly from the battery, fused cable straight from the battery. The first place it goes to is to this cutoff relay. The cutoff relay will monitor the battery voltage, and if I ever drop below a certain programmable voltage threshold, it will shut off everything downstream of this relay. So all of the accessories I have in this camper shell are fed from this relay source. And so it's great because if I leave a light on, it'll just turn off automatically, and I'll always have enough juice left over to start the truck. So like I just mentioned, all of the kind of electrical supply for all of the accessories in the camper shell are wired in straight from the car battery. So I've run a large, like I said, I think it's a 12 or 8 gauge cable through the frame rail of the truck, all the way back underneath the truck, and then up to this little storage cabinet here, or storage pocket. Inside of this, all the electrical connections between the truck and the camper shell are kind of hidden in here. So if I ever want to remove the camper shell, I just can unplug quickly all of the electrical connections. All of the power and brake light signals and all that stuff then run up through this coiled cord. I'll show you in a second why this is a coiled cord, not just a normal cable. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but there's a pretty cool use for that one. So now talking about what some of these individual switches do. So this first switch is the light switch for the lights that are inside of the kind of the toolbox region here. So kind of a pro tip, if you're ever wiring up a light panel like this, it's always a good idea to put the lights that sort of illuminate the switch panel, always make that the first switch, so that when you're reaching in here, you're fumbling in here in the dark, you feel for the first switch, you hit that, and then you can see everything else going on. I'm gonna skip this radar switch. That's like the coolest feature. I'm saving the best for last. So I'm gonna keep moving through the remaining 3 switches here. These independently control the 3 spotlights that I told you about on the roof rack. So these lights here, I wired them up on 3 separate switches just because it's really nice to be able to only turn on the one you need. So a scenario where that's helpful is, say you're at a campsite, you got some neighbors at the campsite next to you, and you only want to illuminate the area you're cooking, but you don't want to like blind your neighbors. You can just turn on the light you need. And then moving down here, I've also got a dimmer switch that all 3 of these lights are wired up to. So I can independently control the brightness of those spotlights as well, which again, if you're like in the dark woods or something, you really don't want one of those super bright, blinding floodlights on because it just kills your night vision or disturbs everybody around you. So I can dim all of these lights independently, which is really nice. So on that same switch panel, I also have 2 more USB outlets for charging your GoPro cameras, drone, whatever accessories you might have. And then I've got a, kind of a standard 12-volt cigarette outlet lighter thing. I use that for like my compressor for my tire inflator and stuff. And then I've got an auxiliary voltmeter shown here. All right, so I just started up the truck to demonstrate what I think is the coolest feature of this build so far. So I just finished kind of building out this feature. So when I was showing you the back of the bed, you may have noticed this big fat aluminum beam on either side of the bed. And if you're really aware, you may have seen these electric actuators. So you probably know where I'm going with this, but there is a electrically driven actuator system that is able to lift the entire camper shell up off of the bed by about 14 inches, which gives you way more headroom and makes sleeping in this thing just so much more comfortable. So before that, if you sit up in bed here, basically on this sleeping platform, you're immediately going to hit your head. With the roof system all the way up, you can sit up comfortably, you can change clothes, you can move around in here, way more livable. So I'll demonstrate how that works now. So I've got the truck started, moving back into the switch panel area that's in the toolbox again. So I skipped over this switch that's labeled radar. And so what this is an arming switch for the lift system. So the first step is you flip that switch, then this switch is now active, and this is the switch that'll drive the lift system up and down. The reason I've got that arming switch is you can imagine if I'm going down the highway and I slam on the brakes and something hits this, flies forward and hits this switch, I don't want to look in my rearview mirror and see, my camper shell, 1.5 feet above where it was. So I've got that arming switch to prevent that from accidentally being actuated. So once you're all ready, you just simply arm it, and you hit the up button, and the lift will start driving up. So you can see all 4 actuators lifting the camper shell up. This takes 15-20 seconds, so I'll probably just speed this up in the video. Alright, so that's all the way up now. So the actuators will automatically stop once they're in kind of full travel. They all have like internal limit switches, so everything kind of levels out and finishes at full stroke. Alright, so now the obvious question is, what the heck do you do about that big gap? So what I've done is I've made a canvas kind of like tent system that I keep here that goes all the way around the perimeter. And I'll show you I probably won't show you how it installs all the way through the video, but I'll show you kind of what the whole thing looks like once it's fully set up. But I've put snaps into kind of the inside perimeter of this shell. And so this skirt system snaps into those kind of snaps up top. And then the bottom edge of the skirt, I actually sewed in a ton of these magnets. I think there's like something like 150 sewn in magnets here that will stick to the outside of the bed. The reason I did it that way is because I wanted rainwater to be able to kind of sheet off the outside of the bed and not collect down in the middle. And so this way you can sleep in this thing, while it's raining, and it'll keep you dry. right, so this is what the whole setup looks like with the camper top kind of in the full up position and the skirt installed. So now you can see there's tons more headspace. You can kind of sit in the bed here, put your shoes on, change clothes, whatever. There's tons more room. This is the kind of the skirt thing that I made for it. So like I was saying before, that snaps into the top with these snaps all along the perimeter, and then goes underneath to the outside of the bedside. And on the outside of the bed, it actually attaches to the bed with these magnets, and it's pretty solid. But if I peel this back, you can see all the little magnets under there, and you kind of hear them all like snap into place. All right, so to close the whole thing up, say you're about to go to bed, you would close the tailgate first, pull the skirt out, and then grab the glass back, and then this, kind of hard to do with one hand, but this velcros along this seam, and then there's magnets in the bottom of this as well that seal it all up. All right, so here's a little tour of the inside. I'm about 6'1", and I've got plenty of headroom up here. I'm kind of sitting down on the bed with my feet out front. So this is a huge improvement compared to the amount of headspace I had before the lift. It was like sleeping in a cave or something beforehand. Usually I sleep with my head on the tailgate side like this. And then when you're laying down in bed, you have access to the lights, of course, and cell phone chargers and all that kind of stuff. All right, so while this is all in the up position, I wanted to take a second to talk about the actuator system. So you may have seen or heard of the Topper Easy Lift system. That's like a commercially available kit that does a similar thing. I decided to build my own for a couple reasons. One, the Topper Easy Lift is like super expensive. It's like a couple $1,000s. I built all of this for probably, including the canvas material and everything, about 300 bucks. I think if you want the whole tent system from Topper Easy Lift and the lift system, you're pushing $3 grand. So I did it for about the 10th of the cost. I used, I'll go to this actuator here. I used these actuators off of Amazon. So these are just 12 volt linear actuators, 14-inch stroke. Each one is rated for, I think it's close to 400 pounds. That's what they claim. I doubt it would actually lift 400 pounds, but I've got 4 of them. So fair amount of pushing power. They attach to the standard like Tacoma bed rail system, or that accessory system here, so I can remove them really easily. They're all connectorized, and they all in each of these storage pockets, so I can disconnect them and unplug them in just a couple seconds if I want to remove the actuators. So the really hard part about this build was trying to figure out how to get a low profile kind of mounting system that fit under this toolbox without sacrificing too much stroke. So the way they mount to the shell is what I think a lot more robust than how Topper Easy Lift does it. I'll pop these snaps back so you can see kind of the guts of it. But what I did is I welded up I took an aluminum I-beam and I cut one of the flanges off of it to make it like a T, I guess. So this beam, 1/4 inch thick, actually goes underneath the lip of the camper shell, and then it's bolted to the fiberglass lip, so that the whole camper shell kind of sits on this aluminum shelf, I guess, if you will. So you can imagine if all 4 of these actuators are not perfectly parallel, the system might bind up. So the way I addressed that was I basically built in a big fat clearance hole into this channel bracket here. There's a bolt that goes through. The bolt just kind of keeps the shell from flying off when I'm going down the road, essentially. But this bolt isn't necessarily really tight, but there's big fat fender washers, big flat washers on either side of this aluminum bracket. That aluminum bracket has a big clearance hole in it, and there's nylon washers on either side that let this thing kind of skate around. So this plate can kind of skate around on top of the actuators. And so as it's going up, if it's not perfectly aligned, these are able to move back and forth to kind of compensate for any misalignment. And then one more detail, last thing I did is, there's no way I would trust these Amazon actuators to kind of support any lateral loading on this shell. So if somebody leaned on it or a big gust of wind came, pretty sure these little scrawny actuators would just fold right over. So I built kind of a cheapo, poor man's slide system, essentially, Just two pieces of aluminum tubing kind of telescoping inside of each other. I don't have any bearing, no nylon bushing or anything like that. If I were to do this again, I might include some sort of bushing or make this out of a different material. But there's not a whole lot of like lateral load on this, so it really doesn't want to lock up at all. It seems to work pretty well. So super simple solution, just to kind of provide some extra support to this thing. So if I park it on the side of a slope or big gust of wind comes, you know, I don't have to worry about waking up in the middle of the night with this probably 400-pound camper shell on my head. So I touched previously on this this kind of like power supply cable, and why it's a coily cord. You can see why now. So this kind of lets me compensate, lets the wiring kind of take up the slack from when this thing goes up and down. This coil just expands. I think I've got 12-volt power running from there through there from the battery. I also have the brake light wiring running through there, and I have a couple spare conductors inside of that cable that I can use for other functions down the road.